Hey, this is Mira Beck, the founder of Overnight Success Publishing and host of Wake Up and Be Successful show. On today's episode, I have a very special guest with me, Dineen Wasylik from DPW Legal here in Wesley Chapel. And so, Dineen, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that you took the time to sit down with me and share some of your specialty. We actually met just last week at one of the Smart Business Series events that we host here at the Overnight Success Studios, along with the New Tampa New Tampa Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
They just changed the name. So you did an awesome presentation
Thank you.
on intellectual law, and the beauty was that really I actually understood what you were talking about. It
Great.
wasn't a whole bunch of legalese,
Good.
or as I like to call it, legal mumbo jumbo. And you did an awesome job. So I felt like you'd be an excellent guest for our show.
Wonderful.
And here we are. So I'm going to just dive right in.
Great.
If you wouldn't mind, share with our audience your upbringing and kind of the background before we dive into some of the tips.
Sure. Well, I've been a lawyer for almost 20 years now. I was one of the first in my family to go to college, and certainly the first in my family to go to law school. So I didn't start out being an entrepreneur's lawyer, but over the course of my time as a lawyer, I really realized that my destiny was to own my own law firm and to sort of break out of that hourly wage kind of thing that I grew up with and run my own business. And what I have found too is that really helps me help my clients as well. Because when I know from running my own business the struggles that they go through in running their business, I know how to make my advice something that they can actually follow and not be so pie in the sky. And I also recognize that my job is to advise people of risk, and their job is to take the risks or not, depending on what their tolerance is. And so I think owning my own firm makes me a better lawyer for the businesses that I work for.
So you basically started as an attorney working for a firm, and then you said about 5 years ago, you decided to go on your own and actually start your own business.
Yep.
And you shared with me when we were setting up for the interview that just like me, you went through a lot of you had to learn yourself and went through some of the stumbling blocks that we both wish that we learned at school.
Yeah, I mean, nobody teaches you in school how to run a law firm. I mean, law schools are starting to get a little better about that, but certainly 20 years ago, it wasn't about that. It was all very theoretical, and I love the theory of the law, the theoretical part, but I also love breaking it down and making it practical for people.
Awesome. So we have definitely established that you are one of us, and not just an attorney that's going to tell us a bunch of legalese and can really relate. So you definitely can relate.
Yeah.
So why don't we just dive right into some of your intellectual property lawyering things. So for business owners, just like myself, I've never actually talked to intellectual property attorney. This is not something that would be on my mind as a natural thing to think about. We always talk about marketing and sale and getting clients and fulfilling, what we sell. But let's talk about a reason why really anybody would need you or somebody like you.
Right.
And then maybe we can go into some pitfalls or things that could potentially happen if you don't take it seriously and actually don't do it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things is that at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur creating a business, everything you're creating, you need to protect, and you're working so hard to create it, and we help you protect it. So, your ideas may not necessarily be protectable by some areas of law, but we can help you find the other areas of law that do protect them. And the ultimate goal is to build a business that can outlive you, right? To not have it be just about you, but to be beyond you as you grow, and so protecting all that intellectual property, making sure that you own what you think you own, because a lot of times small businesses use third parties to help them develop content, and if they don't have the right written agreements, they don't actually own it at the end of the day. So we work really hard to help businesses identify those things, make sure that they own it, and then protect it.
So really, in a sense, when you have your business, a lot of the times there's an exit strategy. So at some point you want to either sell the business or maybe pass it on to your kids or something like that. So what you're really saying, you're helping people create assets.
Correct.
That will stay with the business, right?
I mean, intellectual property is property. It comes from your mind originally, but it is property, and the best way to have it ready to alienate, whether it's to sell or to pass down in an entity, is to make sure you own it and then identify and protect it.
Yeah.
And the other flip side of it, by the way, is we also help businesses identify and stay away from making mistakes with other people's intellectual property so they don't get in trouble. It's both a proactive protecting yourself and the things that you're creating and making sure you're not inadvertently, causing yourself legal trouble outside the box. It's so much cheaper to understand the law from the front end and not go afoul of it than it is to try and get out of a mess later.
Yeah, so there's really two different advantages of using you because A, it's the asset building because that will increase the value of the business when the time comes to sell it. And the second one would be the protection from potential lawsuits or some infringement on some copyrights that could cost you money. So in a sense, sounds like that you can probably pay for yourself easily a few times over if it's done right.
If you think about the value of the small investment on the front end and giving yourself the tools to build things in the right way so that when it comes time to make the next step, you're ready to do it. It is so much less expensive to do it that way than it is to have to scramble at the back end to try and make things work. Like, for example, I have a client who recently sold a very successful web-based business. She very smartly came to me like 3 years ago and said, okay, what do I need to do? And we went through and made sure that she had proper agreements with the people who were providing content for her website. We made sure that she had proper agreements with the people who had done pictures and all those kinds of things. And then when it came time to sell, she was ready to do that because she had the right agreements in place. There was no surprises of, maybe someone else owns these things because we made sure that all the agreements were in place on the front end. And she was able to have a very successful sale and, sail off into the sunset. She's probably on a cruise right now, actually.
That's cool. So really, some like things that most of us never think about. You build a website and there's all these disclosures, disclaimers, all that stuff. That would be something that you could help, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's lots of like hidden traps. Like if you have the kind of website where other people are uploading content, for example, there's really important protections that you should have in place by registration with the Copyright Office to protect you from being liable for their copyright infringement if they're infringing something they upload for you. So we identify things like that, trapped in the unwary, and get you in line with all those things to help protect you.
Or proper agreements, so you have some stuff in place and protection when you sell stuff or deliver services or whatever. I'm even thinking, it's very popular hiring graphic designers and web designers, all that stuff. So if you don't have the right things in place and somebody's using copyrighted material, they could come after you rather than the designer.
I mean, and I've had several cases like that where someone's hired a web designer to make a website for them. 4 or 5 years later, an owner of a photograph from that was used on that website is coming after you. The designer's long gone, and you haven't gotten your ducks in a row, and now maybe you're on the hook for copyright infringement. And so we can go through and identify the possible places where you have those kinds of issues, help you make sure you have the proper agreements in place so that that person's on the hook, not you, if you get held up. And there's a lot of different things that we can do to help protect you in that situation. Make sure that you have a good database of understanding where your stuff comes from so that you can keep yourself from having that problem to begin with.
Okay, cool. And I'm assuming that working with you is really for everybody that has a business, whether it's new person or somebody or that has existing business.
Yeah, I mean, we have a like startup package where we just sit down and really go through what your plans are and help you plan how to do it right so you don't get into trouble. And then when you have more established, we go through and we look at your trademarks, look at your copyrights, look at your agreements that you have so far, and help you get them all straightened out and design something for you. We start with an initial assessment, make sure we're really figuring out what you have going on with your business. But all my startups who have done the initial thing have all said, boy, this changed the way I look at my business and really has helped me, move forward in a way that makes sense. So, I think it's a really worthy investment to be on the right track from the beginning than to build a whole bunch of things that you may have to tear down. Who wants to do that? Yeah,
for sure. And I'm thinking also for, business owners that don't see it, it's really hard sometimes to go backwards, right? So when you start a business, like the last thing on your mind is probably, okay, let me just take time to sit down with an attorney and talk about some of this stuff. But really, in your business, you should approach everything with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it would be a good investment on time and money in the beginning.
And that in that time money value kind of continuum, you can spend months trying to learn this stuff on your own, and maybe not get it right, or you can spend a little bit of money and an hour of your time and utilize someone who's got 20 years of knowledge in this area to really fast forward your experiences. And a lot of what we do in that initial consultation is making sure you understand the lay of the land so that you don't accidentally step into these mistakes.
That makes a lot of sense. Is there like a short list of things that everybody needs to just kind of put it in perspective and that everybody can understand? That maybe you wouldn't even think that that's something that needs to be covered?
A couple things, like everybody needs to have written agreements with their third-party contractors. If you're hiring photographers, if you're hiring web developers, if you're hiring videographers, you need to have those things, the agreement in place for how those rights are going to flow afterwards. That's a really big one. Everyone needs to make sure they understand where they're getting content from and not just, don't use a Google search to pick an image and put that on your website. That could get you in trouble. So you need to be thinking about that. And then, I think every business should really think hard about their branding, and it is a good investment to know if there's someone else out there using similar branding before you put a lot of money behind a brand. And so we can do a quick and dirty search to say, you know what, someone has a registered trademark for this exact thing, you should change your name. And then, when it comes later to the time, you can do a trademark registration perhaps. And we talk about how to build all of those rights.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's a pretty good list. And we just recorded your presentation last week, which I thought was phenomenal.
Thank you.
So would you be willing to share the recording of the presentation with the viewers if they want to get more information about the process and how important, like some of the stuff you covered were great. So we're gonna put a link. Is it okay if I put a link?
Yeah,
and we'll
we can
just
add a link. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
And that's all mistakes that marketers and small businesses make when starting both copyright and trademark. So it's a really useful, useful informational piece to really get on the right track of what you need to know.
Awesome. So we'll put a link to the video and maybe some resources and a way to contact you.
Absolutely.
And I would strongly recommend anybody that has a business, obviously, if you're local here in the Tampa Bay area, that's no-brainer. Do you work with people from outside?
I do. I work statewide, and I have trademark clients all over the country.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
We can help with that nationwide.
So no matter where you're from, if you have any questions and want to explore these topics any further, we'll put the information below. So now let's just switch from the legal stuff to success stuff. A lot of people that are watching this show are either brand new business owners or already accomplished business owners.
Right.
And I always, with every guest, my hope is that there'll be somebody that will connect with you on a certain level that you will inspire them, to do more and to be successful. So tell me about your influences, people or books or whatever has, influenced you as a business owner.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, it's so funny because probably 5 years ago, I would have 0 on my list because I really wasn't thinking with an entrepreneurial mindset. But since I've had my own business, I've just devoured different business-related books. I really, The Miracle Morning is a big one for me, just because it's really helped me sort of get my morning routine down right and get my day started looking at the right things and not in a panic. So that's a big one.
Well, let me just pause you right there. What is your morning routine? What would you, we are all different. You and I chatted about being a morning people, but really,
and I have not been a morning person historically, but I'm really trying very hard to make myself one.
So how did you get to actually overcoming or just getting up early in the morning, and what is your morning look like?
So part of it was having no choice because my kids' school got earlier, but I really decided that I had to make sure that I wasn't just like surviving through that, but I was thriving through their morning routine. So I now get up at 5 minutes to 5 in the morning, and I am at the gym by 5:25, and I work out for 30 minutes. Then I come home and I get both of my kids off to school. When I come home, while I'm getting them off to school, I also journal in my journal. I use the 1 minute journal, the 5 minute journal rather, which I find very helpful, and it's got a morning component and an evening component to talk about what my day is going to be and some affirmations and those kinds of things. Grab a cup of coffee and try to get myself to the office sometime by 8:30 or so. But you've already kind of put in a full day by that point.
That's really cool. And I like the taking some time at the end of the day to plan your next day.
Yeah.
Because then you're not just waking up into a chaos, you actually have some plan to action.
And really just sort of living by the calendar a bit, and not in a negative way, but really making sure I understand what's coming down the pike and can really plan to do high value work as much as possible rather than getting run around in the low value work.
Yeah. I think for me, getting up at 5 really means I have to be in bed by 10.
Yeah, me too.
If I can do the evening part, then the morning part is going to fall apart. And again, I'm like you, not a morning person, but if with some discipline, and for example, with the phone or your alarm, I know we chatted about it before, but like I can tell you if I put a phone next to me on the nightstand, the snooze button is going to win.
Yeah.
If I put it into a different room or just at least far enough away that I have to take a few steps, I can get up and I'm totally fine. So little tiny things like that could actually change the whole morning routine and help overcome some of these issues.
And like for example, for me, I knew that I need to do this, and last school year it didn't work at all, and I was not doing very well. And so when the kids were out for summer, I started getting up a little earlier and going to the gym at 6, not at 5:30. I knew that when school started, I have to go at 5:30 in order to make it work, but it wasn't quite so hard to start at 6. And I gave myself more time. I was still getting up about 5:15. I was getting there at 6. Once I did that for June, July, and part of August, when school started, it wasn't so hard to move up to 5:30. And boy, has that made a difference for me. That's cool. To have been able to do that before I even got here, I feel like I accomplished something was good.
And now there's always this debate about morning person, non-morning person, where do you work out and stuff. But I every time I force myself into doing the morning routine, by noon I feel like I have a whole day of accomplishment. And if I don't, and I'm just sluggish and get out of bed at 8 or something, it can be 5 p.m. and I always feel like I haven't done anything that day. So, give it a shot. If you're not a morning person, you got 2 people, here to just show that you don't have to be a morning person. Just a little bit of discipline and determination will help and go a long way. So, you had other books on your list? I know dove right into it with the morning routine,
okay. But I really like. It's so funny. Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership. I tried reading it 5 years ago and I didn't get it at all. Now with 5 years of managing my own business under my belt, I love it. That's been a really good one. I keep a list on my phone. I've read so many in the past couple of years. That's a good one.
Do you listen to audiobooks or do you read? Or how do you digest your information?
A lot of it is audiobook, honestly. I used to have long commutes, and so I would listen to audiobooks. And I used to do just fiction. And now I really try and do much more nonfiction or podcasts or those kinds of things. I mean, lately, a lot of what I've been doing has been more health and fitness related because I'm really trying to get more healthy. And so I've been doing a lot of reading on that.
That's awesome. And with audiobooks, I started using Audible years ago, and I realized if you put your book on like 1.5 or 2 speed,
I do that.
You get used to it, and you can really, then listen to an 8-hour book in 4 hours.
And I try really hard when I'm reading those books too, when I'm listening to those books too, is that it's a little crazy. I'm listening to the audiobook. I'll pause and I'll dictate notes into Evernote.
Oh, that's cool.
So I really try and make sure that I'm following what I'm reading and get more to it. So I love to do that on an airplane or when I'm driving. I'm obviously safely, hands-free and all that. But, I get more out of it than I have the notes that I can go back and look at. In a real book, I might take handwritten notes, but I'm finding that keeping those lists in Evernote is good for me because I can go back and look at it, even on the go.
And Evernote, obviously, it's cloud-based, so you can pull it up on your phone, your computer, whatever. So I use that as well. It's great. And I don't think we've ever mentioned like resources like that on this show. So Evernote, we're gonna put the link down below the video. But it's a phenomenal note-taking platform that you can really sync.
And I'll even sometimes you can take a photograph. If I'm reading a book, I'll take a photograph of a passage rather than trying to retype it and drop that in there. So it's really good.
That's awesome. So if you are commuting or driving an extended period of time every day, one of the things you can get into is definitely self-development, listening to books, and like you were saying, maybe not not just storybooks and just regular books, but business books, self-help
One
books,
of the best audiobooks actually is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel.
Ruiz.
Ruiz, thank you. Yeah, I mean that one really is very transformative as far as your attitude towards approaching life and therefore business, but so much of it is changing the way you approach life so that you can provide more value through your business. Yeah.
So this was a lot of the self-development. Do you have anybody or any book that you follow on like the marketing and the business building side?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of reading with Dan Kennedy videos and books and stuff. I have a lot of his books. I have a lawyer-specific business coach that I work with who has a lot of stuff. David Nagel is one, or John Robbins is the other. And just sort of trying to follow. I love marketing that is based on helping people. Like the idea is the more you give, the more you get. And I really feel strongly that is truly the way it goes. And so I give a lot of information free. But my hope is that I'm giving people enough that they realize that I can really help them too.
That's really cool. So a couple things I want to cover on what you just said. You found a lawyer-specific coach, right?
Yep.
How much do you think that fast-tracked your growth and success?
A ton. Yeah, because I think before that I had a job for myself and now I have a business. I think that's a big difference in your mindset and a big difference in how you run things.
So that's the point I want to make is that there's a lot of coaches and a lot of resources in the general area, and then I would venture to say that in every niche, no matter what business you're in, there's probably someone who's already figured out the marketing and all the stuff that goes into that business, whether it's lawyer, insurance agents, whatever it is. So you could do a search or find somebody that actually has already done it and just pay them for either the coaching or, a lot of them have done for your resources, done for your marketing campaigns. Like there are things that you can just, pay some money
I cannot mention
to save
Ben
so much
Glass,
time,
Legal Marketing.
Ben Glass,
I've been to at least one of his big events and we have a lot of his resources.
Yeah, we love Ben. He's an awesome guy for sure. And that's, the whole Dan Kennedy family. It's a lot of great people. And I think that there's just about somebody in whatever niche in the Dan Kennedy world that has taken Dan's magnetic marketing and rewrote it and kind of customized it toward their niche. So definitely get a coach, hire a coach, read books, like work on your business. Okay, so and the other thing besides coaching then is gonna be you mentioned value. And I just can't stress enough how important it is. Like the more you give, the more you get. That's like one of the universal laws. And people are always afraid they're gonna give up their best stuff, for free or whatever. But in my opinion, it's always like if you give a lot of value and you give your best stuff forward, people will just wonder what if this is this good for free. What else
what's behind the curtain?
Behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly.
And the funny thing is, the stuff behind the curtain doesn't have to be any better than this free stuff. But people, when they receive something, they feel almost obligated to reciprocate. So there's just so many times where, in my own marketing, like I get clients just signing up really 10 out of 10 because I just lead with so much value. And so, I maybe describe briefly, what do you do on the front end in your business to give first?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is just I try very hard to educate. And so like that talk that we filmed a few weeks ago, I've done similar talks probably 20 times in the last year to Rotary clubs, which have small business owners, to, different associations that have people who are small business owners. And the idea is I don't want people making these mistakes. I would much rather you not hire me and not make a mistake than have to hire me because of a mistake. The very best is you hire me before you make a mistake and we can keep you from making those mistakes and really sort of add value. But a lot of the giving the information is making people aware of things they didn't even know were a problem. And then if they fix themselves, great. But a lot of times they're just like, you know what? I should have someone else do this for me and we can be the people who do it for you too. Because there is a lot of value in getting a lot of expertise for some money versus, do it yourself is lovely, but often you have to put in hours and hours and hours and hours to figure it out. You may not even get it right. With copyright registrations, with trademark registrations, we call them deceptively simple government forms. They look like there's not much to them, but there's really important legal decisions that you have to make to answer the questions correctly. And that's the value that we bring with 20 years of experience doing this, is that, we understand how to answer those questions.
Yeah. And there's one other thing, in the beginning, people feel like they can afford something, right? They can afford an assistant. They can afford, legal stuff. They can afford an accountant or a good web designer. But really, when you think about it, if you do the exercise that Dan Kennedy is talking about to find out how much your time is worth and how much your hour is worth. Imagine if you spend 8 hours researching your topic instead of spending 8 hours selling and bringing money into the business. So at some point, if you know your numbers and you can really focus on bringing the money into the business, you'll be able to afford all these different things.
Absolutely.
Versus just trying to do it all on your own.
Yeah, I mean, and the highest and best use of your time is what's going to be generating sales, right? So sales is the best use of your time. Actually making a sale is the best use of the time. Marketing is number 2, right? And then number 3 is delivering, and it's actually usually cheaper to push down the delivery if you can. But you got to be able to do those things. And anytime you invest in a coach or invest in an accountant or invest in a lawyer, you're really spending some money to compress that time and free up your time for other things, which is so important. And especially at the front end, I tell businesses, look, unless and until you've hired a lawyer and hired an accountant to even just do the very basics, you're really just a hobby and not a business, And so you need to actually sort of understand some of those things to make it an actual business.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think this is a very informative interview, and I got a lot of it, and hopefully everybody watching it as well. So I like to always end these interviews with a couple of questions, and really. Let's first cover the success topic. What does success mean to you personally? What's your definition of success?
I think success is having the freedom to live the life that you want to live. And for me, that means time with my family. That means making memories with my family. That means being freed up to do those things. And helping as many people along the way is a good way to do it.
That's awesome. And that almost ties into the other question, which is kind of your big why. Why do you do what you do? Why do you get up in the morning and hit the ground running and actually do what you do?
I just love seeing people build their businesses. I mean, the more we build businesses, the more we grow our economy. The more, I really don't think that the pie is finite. I think we can just keep making a bigger pie. And so I love contributing to that for more than just my business. Yeah,
and I think in a sense maybe contributing to the statistics of the failing businesses. I mean, the statistics are pretty awful with how many businesses go out of business within the first year and the first 5 years.
True.
So anything that we can do for them, and that's really the purpose of the show as well, is try to help people succeed and stay in business longer, so they can help more people and create the freedom and the success for themselves. So. It's awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And for all of you watching, I hope you got something out of it. As always, if you heard something really good, one book title, one tip, please act on it. The difference between success and failure is implementation. So go do something with the information you just got today. And till next time, wake up and be successful.